All right, welcome. My name is Megan Haynes, and I'm the Director of Marketing at AboutTime Technologies. I am excited to host this long-awaited webcast. We are all in the same boat. Trying to manage multiple job sites and multiple crews is overwhelming at times. And we're excited to share some of our expertise, and hopefully you will leave this webcast with some new and innovative ideas that will help you to reduce risk and increase productivity on your projects. So before we get started, I'd just like to review a few technical details. We have muted your microphones. However, we want to make sure that everyone leaves today understanding and having had their questions answered. So please submit your questions at any time. Simply type them into the question box on the left side of your screen. We will have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation where we will answer as many questions as possible. Now, this webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be sent out after the presentation. So I would like to introduce our presenter, Mike Merrill. Mike is the co-founder and COO of AboutTime Technologies. He began working in the construction industry in 1991 and understands the risks a contractor takes every day. Through his time as COO of AboutTime, Mike has had the opportunity to work with many companies, small and large. Learning from their mistakes as well as their successes has given Mike a keen insight into how reducing the risk a contractor encounters every day can result in higher productivity and higher returns on investment. So I will turn the time over to you now, Mike.
Thank you, Meg. On the webinar today. So as you're well aware, today's topic, reduce risk and increase productivity. Here at AboutTime, we understand very well because we have worked for 11 years with companies much like yours all over the country and even internationally throughout the world that are also facing these same economic and market condition challenges. Of course, you know, there are many different graphical ways we can display the risks that we're working with. Of course, trying to gain as much profit as possible and avoid as many of the losses as we can as we work through this process. As each of us consider our particular market conditions, I wanted to talk about you know, a fairly famous icon that we might all be familiar with. You know, if we could share with you, you know, what we could do to help you earn an additional 15% on well worth your time to tune in and listen. And as everyone's familiar with the Geico Gecko, unfortunately in construction or in business, we don't have insurance that will ensure that we are profitable. There is no real option for us to get bailed out from our various projects other than, you know, working through them and hopefully getting through to the other side with remaining profits that are at a reasonable margin that will help us to continue to grow. So of course, you know, with the market conditions as they are, one of the foremost experts, McGraw-Hill Construction, they, you know, have many different publications. They own different companies that collect all types of data related to market conditions, new building starts, permit pulls, various projects throughout the world. And they were quoted in an article that I'll cite throughout some of this presentation that says good risk management is business imperative to be successful in construction today. I think most people that I've talked with around the country and throughout North America this year, throughout the various events that I've been to, are all seeking opportunities to gain more control of those challenges that they're facing in their market. There's various graphics out there. If you do a simple web search, you'll find all types of graphics like this that talk about you know, monitoring and controlling risk, identifying what those challenges are. If you look at these other slides, we've got similar words and verbiage: act, plan, do, check. You know, of course, identify again, as on the previous slide. There are many different ways that we can break this down, but at the end of the day, it really comes down to anything. You know, we can talk and plan and plot and scheme and do everything we want to prepare, but until the rubber meets the road, there's really not going to be any business benefit that's going to help things take a different direction or improve. Again, as I talked about McGraw-Hill, they had a 56-page report. This was actually published in 2012, but the data is from 2011, and it's called Mitigation of Risk in Construction. I won't go through all of this, but I do have a few key points. According to this document, the biggest construction risks are, outlaid by the companies that they surveyed, which were, some of the larger firms and organizations around the nation. And with open-ended questions, here were the top-of-mind answers. First of all, in their design projects, the changes of scope or creep. The goal would be to try and find new processes or strengthen existing, or again, involve yourself in software solutions or technology solutions. They're going to help you identify when scope creep or project changes occur. Budget and cost overruns, that's very common. As Megan mentioned in my introduction, I was a general contractor for about a dozen years, and this was a constant battle. We wanted to do a good job. We wanted to take care of our customers. We always were interested in their contentment and happiness with the work that we were doing, but there was a constant tug of war to try and balance our efforts to please them and keep them happy, and then also be able to turn a profit, and keep from giving away too many concessions that were at our business expense. The third bullet item, project and process approvals. So again, even when these budget changes occur or when scope creep happens, these approvals seem to be an area where money falls through the cracks. Safety issues, workers' comp claims, liability insurance premium increases. Again, claims valid or fraudulent regardless, no matter what, when a claim occurs, there are substantial costs that hit your business specifically, as well as the market generally, if the market's not solving these things collectively. So there's, site conditions, could be related to weather, possibly, again, maybe between different subcontractors, stepping on each other's toes, being in the way of one another. Again, there are economic conditions, other things that impact aside from just this list, but generally, as you see here on this graphic, it says 84% of these companies experience some type of delay. 86% had experienced some level of over budget. 76% said they had received disputes and claims against, whatever the initial scope was. So again, there are lots of data points that we can focus in on, but generally speaking, there are lots of variables. So again, this really, again, as the text below comes up, the industry is perceiving that there are challenges that are posing great risks to their projects. One interesting fact in this last sentence, it says, rather than external factors like economy or labor markets, it's a positive implication that, of course, the industry does have the ability to reduce their own risk. These external factors don't necessarily have to impact your specific business if you have proper controls in place. And if you have measures that you can take when to dive into some more specific things that might relate to things you can do quickly in your business to change the results that you're getting or the risk that you're experiencing. Again, this graphic is in line with the other one to a degree. There are some additional things, the top 5 things that we talked about: safety and site conditions. There's also scheduling, utilities, is there availability of power or resources. So there are things that might be less in your control whether the power's there or not, or you've got to run off of generators. Of course, that may not be something that you can directly control if you're a subcontractor on someone else's project. But again, these things are all impactful. Another graph, the most serious risks, again, changes in schedule. So that may be your fault, someone else's fault, or nobody's direct fault, but generally when things change, there are costs. And as contracted parties, if we're responsible to deliver something in a certain time period and on a certain budget. As we see changes in cost on item number 2, financial risks. Many contractors are, if not all, they're paying interest somewhere on something. So their resources and their capital are tied up, and it's costing them not only time and money in terms of the hard costs that they're writing checks for, but again, the banks are collecting interest, or that money just keeps on ticking, and as the old phrase goes, interest never sleeps. So I remember back as a contractor in the late 90s and early 2000s, as my business grew, and I continued to do more projects. My profits didn't necessarily grow proportionally, and in some cases I was less profitable doing more work. And so those contributing factors, of course, were scaling and having enough of these processes in place so that when I experienced challenges in these areas of change of schedule or costs, change orders, etc., that I had my back covered, so that again the sheer volume of work did not overwhelm my ability to perform it and keep ahead of it as a business. Performance risks, again, contractually. We've got even not meeting client expectations, as we talked about a little bit earlier, which usually means some sort of concession or some sort of discussion where you are compromising. And again, compromise in the business world means loss to a degree. So again, graphics are nice, but I'd like to drill down and get into but that are just factual out in the marketplace today. These time cards, if you have time cards that look like these were actually from a customer quite a few years ago. They shared these with us, and these look like some of the sheets that you have in your office, and maybe not. Maybe you're more organized, your paperwork's cleaner, or you've got this in Excel. But if these totals on the right hand side in this handwritten sheet are still the same numbers that you have in Excel, you might feel better about them, but they're costing you the same dollars when you cut payroll. Now the processing of these, of course, is going to be costly. You may save some processing time if you've got it more neatly organized when it comes in, but the hard costs of the actual wages and hours and totals are going to be the same. So advancing forward, basically, I see risk when I look at these timesheets. Here's another picture of various timesheets within an organization. These were actually, it's funny, our CEO, one of my partners, about a month ago, emailed these out. His wife was cleaning out some old files that were about 10 or 12 years old, and she came across some of the time cards in a folder. And so he took a picture and shared that with our team here at AboutTime, and we got a big kick out of that. I too at the time was a contractor before we started AboutTime, and so I'm very familiar and know a lot of these guys. They did work with my company as well, or I came across them, so it was nice to see their names and funny to see, looking back after all these years, what we were dealing with. Documentation, but the reality is, in the general market, I've been to about 6 events already this year, half of them trade shows, the other half conferences, and in every single case, the hundreds and hundreds of companies that we spoke with, most of them had some form of documentation that looked like this. So we want to help you move past this and clean these things up, automate them, organize them, and control the data that can be entered on them to help you manage that risk better. There are technologies today that can help you do this, and they are tested, true, and tried at this point. The early adoption period for these types of things is probably in the rearview mirror at this point. So again, I what this system was designed to do specifically. But no matter what process, there's a few critical components if you really want to eliminate risk. PIN code or biometrics, so some level of security of who is entering the data, that it's not written down by or for other people necessarily. A punch in and out, real time, this would be important. If the foreman's managing time for his crew and he's logging time for other employees, at least there's a single source of accountability that is tied to a real-time punch or a clock. This eliminates a great deal of risk for various reasons. Without delving into specific state regulations, we see it all over the country. There are mandated federal laws that employees must have a beginning and end shift recorded when they begin and finish work. They must have an actual time, not just a total of 8 hours or something written in a field at the end of the line. But further than that, tracking cost codes or production units that are actually completed. These are internal risks to construction companies in managing their productivity and managing how effective and efficient they're being on those things that are being worked on, and what kind of visibility management has into that productivity on a daily basis. So here's a digital way to get to the same data that we saw on the previous slides that were on timesheets. Another thing that's important is the process. It's not just a matter of having a better tool to document, but what is that process in order to install drywall? It's not just show up and everything's there and ready. It takes planning. There's a process involved in that, and somebody needed to develop that. So in this particular case, with AboutTime, we have well over 1,000 companies all over North America and even throughout the globe that use this every day and have helped us to refine this over the last 11 years. So the process that they've helped us create for them and others in the industry, like your companies, number one, they're going to have a pin-in screen that looks much like an ATM that all of the guys would be used to. And they enter their PIN number, and then big green and red color-coded buttons can come up so they can tell the device whether they're beginning or ending, whether they're in or out, on or off the clock. Once that's done, a list of cost codes or tasks or activities or work orders may come up depending on your company's workflow. Once that's done, before they log out or enter into a new shift, they can put production units or quantities that they've just completed. So these 4 simple steps that can be done in mere seconds will completely eliminate the paper that we saw earlier, but more importantly than just elimination of paper and manual processes in relation to the topic today, we are mitigating risk. We're avoiding questions that we can't answer, or we're avoiding having to answer questions without proof, without data. And there's a quote out there that I've heard many times when it comes to managing risk, and that is that he who has the most data wins. As soon as there's a challenge or a dispute or a problem, it's important not only that you have the data, but that you have it in a place that you can get to it quickly. It's not buried, 3 filing cabinet. So as moving forward, once production units are entered, we're actually able to get this kind of data on a device here where we get a summary total, so that there's visibility not just for the office and management, but the field actually knows where they're at. And again, the color red denotes risk or over budget, or something is taking more than was expected. So this is the quantity of hours on a project per cost code. And again, the next screen, if I tab over within a mobile device, I come to the units of the quantities. Here are the budgeted units that we've estimated. This is what our profitability was based off of when we initially decided to take on a project and contracted with the owner or general contractor. And here's what my crews have accrued over the course of time. And available today and every day as it flows in when using a real-time clock in, clock out process. So more than just the actual data itself and who entered it can be validated. One of the things that's important for back office management is that they have visibility, that they have dashboards. We looked at, if I back up a slide, these are dashboards for the field. These are on a mobile device, and tools that a field foreman or superintendent or a crew leader can have access to see not only how he's doing with his particular guys, but how's the company doing on this project. Because again, as we've all heard many times, knowledge is power. If we have that knowledge and that understanding of where we're at, we can make decisions in order to improve and make our situation better. So the office has dashboards. These are total hours on a project. Here's job budgets and where we're at. Red is bad in this case here. So these are indicators that tell me that there's something different that needs to happen. Then we have reports that are going to come out. Reporting is just critical in construction. One of the challenges that I often faced was not getting reports. I was able to get all of them eventually, but they were 3 or 4 weeks old. The data was stale by the time maybe it landed on my desk. And I was knee deep or neck deep, depending on what was going on, in 10 other things by the time the report hit my desk. And oftentimes I'd submitted other bids. I had based other assumptions off of the existing jobs that I didn't have current data on. So I may be in trouble in more places than one if I wasn't. So real-time visibility is just critical. So to step through this report, this particular one's a location daily log. Because we had employees clocking in and out and entering units, and because we're integrated with an accounting system that has this data in it, we can get this kind of information without somebody physically filling out or populating an Excel spreadsheet or a paper document that's going to be scanned or faxed or FedExed in. So on this daily log, we have the actual job location, the Boeing East Tower. Here's the total hours by employee for this day. And again, there's what they look like. Here's the weather information. This is another very important thing and was cited in the report by McGraw-Hill. Weather obviously is a huge factor in construction. So we log this for you. AboutTime's system is if there are field notes, if there are audio or text notes that have been recorded, those flow in and hit this report. Any photos that are taken. This one says not our work on the nasty wiring here. Far too many wire nuts, a lot of mess going on there, but it says pre-existing work. So this photo was taken on a mobile device. It wasn't emailed in. It wasn't attached. And it's not lost. It's not in somebody's camera or stuck in their laptop. This actually hits the AboutTime database from a mobile device directly and can be sent in immediately upon taking the photo. And again, instead of digging through filing cabinets or data files to find this, it's right here on a nice report and is a permanent part of the record in this job file. And then the last one, asset usage or equipment. So we can log at this point, how many total hours do we have in a given period on this particular backhoe or skid steer. So there's a lot of different things that can get logged and that are streamlined through this simple process that I just displayed a few slides ago of just clocking in and out. And again, in mere seconds, much of this can be logged without much pain or confusion as to what's expected or how to go about it. Another report, again, more specifically drilling in on equipment. Maybe here's the project and location I'm on. Here's the Bobcat that I've utilized for 8 hours, or skid steer. We have, again, other reporting that can happen here related to task budgets and just many reporting options that can show where you're at, what was completed, how long it took, what's remaining today, and what my budget is versus actual, how many remaining percent worked today, every day. So these types of reports, because they're timely, they are very valuable. The data on them is critical, and I would need to get that in front of me at some point. But the fact that I can have it on a daily basis without having to physically even log into the software, because these reports can be automatically sent out, it's invaluable and would have been amazing for my business if I was still running as a contractor. So the question that I would ask is, does your organization know this kind of information about your crews and specific employees, or lunches, or how many hours are remaining on a daily basis? So with a tool and a system that like AboutTime provides, you can have this information right in front of you anytime you want it. Another thing that's critical in managing risk, and this was a challenge that I always had 10 to 15 years ago, was where are my guys? Really, they really arrive. So when a homeowner or a customer or a project superintendent for the general contractor that I was doing contract work for asked me where my guys were, when they got there, how long they've been there, I couldn't tell them usually, because I had to make 3 phone calls to even find out. And then it was only as good as the source that I was going to find out the information. And sometimes people might fudge the truth a little bit, or might try and adjust things to make me feel better about what they're telling me. So this GPS is a critical component in managing risk. So this verifies where the employee clocks in on that transaction and actually shows up on a map in the software. So your risk is greatly reduced when a question is asked of you, whether it be for some legal matter or a claim. Aside from the payroll component, which of course is a huge financial impact every week that hits every business. So this taps into the internal GPS on the device. There's no monthly subscription fee with the GPS solution that we provide to help you manage this. And again, like we talked before, automatic email alerts are going to come out to you and or your management team when discrepancies occur. So if an employee clocks in over here outside of this geofence, an alert can go out to the appropriate people that there's time being logged in a location other than they have indicated on the device. So just a huge powerful tool for businesses that have remote employees. And the last bullet, again, and this is an important thing, another risk is, do I have area to the best degree it can to collect a satellite signal? So you're basically having eyes and ears in the field where you can't be, whether you're large or small. And we have customers that have even tens of thousands of employees, thousands of employees, or all the way down to 5 or 10 employees. And regardless of their size or what type of work they're doing, there is a visibility requirement. There are things that management needs to know. And this is one more safety net that companies utilizing this solution are able to fall back on when those questions come. We like to say when we're talking with companies, the goal here is to trust but verify. We just want to have the data available in case it's necessary for any reason. So on an overlay of a map, this is kind of what that might look like as an employee bounces from one location to another. And those GPS locations get logged as they're logging in throughout their day, their shift. Risk for companies is fingerprint verification. So on Windows devices, tablets, laptops, computers, companies are able to touch in with their fingerprint, which is 100% validation and foolproof that you really do have that particular employee on that location at that time where that device is located. And the last couple of years, many hardware devices have even provided GPS capability, even on a Windows computer. And so in those cases, when the hardware supports it, we've written functionality that allows a GPS stamp of the location of that fingerprint when it was logged. So it's you've got multiple sources of validation as that data is occurring. It's just, as a contractor for me, one of my largest concerns was that my reports that I was getting once a week were being filled out 100 feet from my desk out in the parking lot 5 minutes before they hit my desk. And the problem is, a lot of times, they were filling out data or information on a Friday for last Monday. And a lot of my employees and even myself, they can't even remember where they had lunch 2 days ago, let alone what they truly worked on, how long they did it for, who was there, what they completed, etc. And the other thing that each one of these things together help identify is not only what did happen, but maybe what didn't happen. So I have visibility into where we weren't, what we didn't do, what's not complete. Because again, that's another piece of the puzzle that is critical in managing efficiency. So further, as far as real-time audio or text notes, employee feedback questions. So this is a really interesting capability. We put it into the system 5 or 6 years ago at the request of quite a few of our customers. So when they go to clock out at the end of their shift or day on a mobile device, in this case this is on their iPhone, and they clock out, did you get hurt on the job today? This question can automatically come up and require them, before they can actually log out, to answer the question. Did you take all of your required breaks? Again, for labor laws and even peace of mind, knowing that you've done your job to validate and make sure that you're taking proper care of your employees. Will you be attending the company party on 12/17? So a lot of times, even in mid to small size organizations, even ask a question as simple as that. So these tools, in each of their unique and different ways, collectively help provide a safety net in many different areas. Aside from being digital and streamlined and automated and paperless and real time, you're also able to call upon this information when there is a risk or an outside threat that comes in for an audit or a labor dispute or a workers' comp or liability insurance review. Other things that are logged and data that are populated, again, and we looked at some of the budget information. But the reason this slide is important is there are a few components, I think, that are visible here. We've got the office here. we have your construction office or your company's management team that has all the same visibility into what's going on that project and where things are at. Without making a phone call, without waiting for a report, this data just flows in and out and back and forth in a seamless manner on a daily basis. We talked about weather conditions a little bit. I know for my particular company, although I was a general contractor, I did a lot of self-performed concrete work. We also framed homes. We did finished carpentry and other things. And I had crews that did all of the work for me and my business, but also we subcontracted out work from other contractors. And I can remember on many occasions being down here. I'm located in Utah, and I was in the Provo area, about 30 minutes of Salt Lake City, and and on any given day, um, I may have sunny skies and could actually go golfing down in the valley, but if I went up near Park City, I may have 4 inches of snow on the ground and a blizzard going on. And so, 15 years ago, we didn't even have smartphones. There was no, there was just no visibility into that. I couldn't wait for the 5 o'clock news to go up to my job. So we had to physically send somebody up or make a phone call to find out what the weather conditions were. Now with this weather service that we have that is free and just comes with the system, I could log into this dashboard and know whether I'm sending a crew up there or not. And if not, maybe when I should be sending them. One thing from this dashboard, I can click in on a live link, and this is a slide, so this isn't the live web. Through a web browser, weather.com, and bring up that physical site, and even show me forecast and even a 5-10 day outlook if I want on a given project. So very interesting information. So there's a dashboard, and I can set alert thresholds to control what when items come up in bright red to alert me of a risk that might be coming, and then I can even send those out automatically. And again, back to my own pain and the challenges that I experienced running my organization as a construction firm. I could always get to the data eventually. It was just how long do I have to wait? What's it going to cost me? And then even once I have it in my hands, if I had any questions or if I didn't have confidence, or if I could, it was not worth further investment to do so. And so again, expose myself to further risk. So these weather events can be sent out and people can be alerted. The customer that actually really drove us to develop this functionality was out of North Carolina, but they do crane work and rigging and steel erection in 45 states throughout North America, and they don't know from one day to the next when there's a high wind warning in Toledo, Ohio, or Santa Monica, California, or Austin, Texas. But with this dashboard, they were able to identify those things. And so they would know as quickly as the crew did when weather was changing or was a concern for their cranes to be in the air. So again, very directly tied to risk management. Over cracked or settling cement. And again, at that time, it was very difficult to go look up in an almanac and find out, there are some better tools now that I can look back and find historical weather. But man, if I could get a GPS stamp with the time and date and a photo of when I showed up and what I was doing when I poured this job, and then 8 months later, you get a notice that somebody's wants me to go replace their cement, and they're going to take me to court if I don't do it, because I poured in unfavorable conditions. I could validate that immediately. And even for myself, if it's a battle that I maybe did make a mistake, maybe I should not have poured, and I do know better, and I chose to take that risk with a full knowledge and understanding of the risks that I was entering into, then I can replace his cement with confidence and maybe risk that I decided to take. And so I don't put myself into further risk over not just taking care of it and doing the right thing in that situation. Um, so visibility dashboards of all kinds. So whether, budget information, devices, notes as they come in. So this is all data that we want to provide to customers to help them manage their projects without having to dig around to find it. Again, alerts and notifications engine is tied to more than just weather and budgets, but overtime reports. Weather, as we mentioned, the budgets like we talked, GPS or geofence infractions. So these, again, are going out to unique, specific management or people that need to see these specific data points. And again, these are things that are happening in real time. It would be really if you're able to do that. So there's daily or weekly reports. So it may not be on a daily basis. Maybe once a week is adequate for some of this type of information. But these are what the actual reports look like. And I'll never forget, I was out in Alpharetta, Georgia about 4 years ago, presenting in front of a group of 68 regional Verizon wireless sales representatives. And they were selling specifically into the construction vertical in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And they were absolutely amazed that we had a solution that could deliver something that said that there was 31.93 hours or 03 or something to that degree, because all the construction companies they'd sold to that were looking for some type of time management that hour or minutes they would not be so specific, but a signature that can come in from the field and provide not only confidence of the data when it was logged, where it was logged, who it was logged by, but after the fact validation that somebody actually reviewed this information in the field and acknowledged that it was correct. So there's all kinds of data that is able to flow into you because of the nature of the solution that we've developed and the technology of movement of data and the networks and again the bandwidth and speeds at which data can be transmitted. These are all things that construction companies of all verticals and industries really need because of the volatile nature of what time costs them in delay. And you can see there are other data points for this particular project and all of the people, not just that one guy. So it's kind of like a crew time card and the total hours in a given day by each employee per shift. Payroll details, so how many hours total in my company, not just that project for this date range. These are all, again, reports that can come in on a timed, controlled, predetermined basis without me having to ask my admin or controller or CFO or maybe my spouse if she's doing my books for me, or my brother, or whoever it might be, whether I'm large or small. Usually someone on the management team needs to see reports and they need to request them from someone else. And even the fact that they've got to do that more than once or on a regular basis will just completely go away with this type of capability. So, again, similar different reports and logs, photos, and things that are going to flow into you. I coined a phrase a while back, or heard a phrase that was coined and have shared many times, Of course, when you're trying to be proactive, I like to say company owners need to uh, find ways to manage their business through a windshield instead of in a rearview mirror. And as you're looking in a rearview mirror, have you ever looked back at a project and seen that plume of smoke raise up and feel like you couldn't get out of there fast enough because things did not go well. We want to help give you that visibility in front of where that blue sky is. We want to provide you with data that helps you to control what that sky looks like for you, so that you can keep on the sunny side of things as opposed to, navigating through the storms of a troubled project. Um, Another phrase that I heard by a customer a while back, when reviewing this, they said, people they've found do what you inspect, not what you expect. And I, through research found, the former CEO of IBM is the one who had coined this phrase. And again, so just having the expectation set that here's how we collect the data, here's the process we're going to use, here's what the data is going to look like, here's how it's going to impact you and your paycheck and your raises and your bonuses and your vacation, but also how it's going to affect mine as a manager or owner of those employees. So in a paper process, you've got field personnel that are filling the data out. They may have to fax it or hand deliver it or some way they're going to send that data in. Then in the office, someone's got to decipher that and pick and choose what their best assessment is of what that data says, whether this is a 7 or a 9 or a 2 or a 0 or an 8. Sometimes those things can happen with handwritten reports or time cards. Then it's got to be entered, which typically in a manual process means double entered, first into whatever system or Excel sheet or whatever is being used for entry on a report, and then secondarily possibly to an accounting system. If there are any edits or changes or anything that needs to be modified or verified, that's another step. Approval of somebody, management or payroll admin or whoever is the final stopgap, and then that's when the check actually gets physically cut. So in this is probably a typical process. Sometimes this might, in smaller organizations, could be all the same person, might even be the owner of the organization working with his crew that still has some semblance of these different steps. But with an automated tool, we're able to eliminate at least that many and move this from the field right to the office where it can be then edited or validated and approved, and payroll checks can be cut. So there's a substantial amount of savings. And in this particular slide, an example, and many studies out there of just the process of dealing with manual paper and eliminating those steps that we took out. 6 hours per week were saved in just processing. And over a 52-week period, it equaled 2 full months of somebody's time. And basically 15% of a full-time employee's year was spent with those things that were completely eliminated. So substantial savings and gains for organizations who are able to automate. So when a company enters into a process like this from being manual in the past, you got logged time up here, which is what historically has been written or recorded, and then actual productivity, or hours that are physically worked and productive in the field. And there's a gap. This gap on the first pay period is typically moved closer together in the center. The gap is narrowed, and there's a new bar that is established, because what happens is when somebody shows up at 8:06 and they write down 8 and leave for lunch at 11:42 and leave at 4:27 and they put 4:30, even though that seems so negligible, it might be 25 minutes of the day that is being paid for on a payroll, along with workers' comp, liability insurance that are based off of gross payroll. other things. So that payroll is excessive over the work that was produced. And then after the first pay period and as time moves on, the log time may move back up to where it was before because we've got productive people showing up on time and not taking as long of lunches, and there's actually more productivity being produced for the same money that they were paying for before, which is really the goal. It's not to reduce payroll and to pay your employees less. It's to get more productivity for a full-time wage. And if overtime is desired because it's needed, they would have the ability to be paid accurately on that overtime instead of excessively. So in this example, 100 full-time employees, a larger uh, mid to large company, 10 minutes a day saved times 5 days is 40 hours, or 2 full-time employees. Their entire wage that's saved in just automating this process and requiring real-time login. So another phrase, you can't manage what you don't measure. So we want to drive that stake in the ground and help you to identify where you're working from and where you're trying to get to specifically, instead of that moving target that you're often left to deal with. So another area of risk and a critical component of any technology solution is that you have integration. You've actually got software talking to software and not too much human interaction in between. So our control center that's installed in an office, we put AboutTime in place, and then you have your payroll and or accounting system. They might be one and the same, or maybe you use ADP or Paychex or Ceridian or a third party. In either case, AboutTime can work with those organizations to pull in that data from accounting, those jobs, cost codes, equipment lists, employees, task or phase codes. And then we feed those data points out to a mobile device where your workers are at. We sync that data back where we actually collect whatever was logged here back in the office. And then there's a file created for an export that will go into payroll and accounting. So this data integrity is a great area that we can help mitigate risk. Now we have another tool called FormsXPress. This is the complete elimination of paper and spreadsheets for any form that's unique to your business. So you can move from this type of a handwritten form that's on a PDF document that's been printed to an iPad or a phone that may have these same fields but cleanly displayed. And as I click through and populate those from this tablet, the results that come out look like this. So now, instead of looking like it was before, I can move from this to this in less steps, quicker, cleaner, and the office has the data within seconds of me completing it. And again, as I mentioned before, not only do they know what data they have, the office knows what they don't have, because if it didn't get logged, they won't have it. Instead of asking for it and him saying, or somebody reporting, oh, it's in my truck, I've got it filled out, and waiting for that data to come, you will actually know when it didn't get logged. So some additional examples, maybe a new hire form. I can take a photo of a driver's license, have them sign it here, their agreed wage, have they read our drug place work drug policy, or whatever other information I need, maybe a labor report with photos embedded or a work order. So this forms tool can actually replace with fields the same data points that I'm manually generating, as well as embed photos, video, and audio files in a digital document that doesn't need to be printed and filed away. So to wrap up here, one particular client, Martin Zombeck, they're out in Syracuse, New York. They reported to us that they saved close to $200,000 on one project just because of the accuracy and the real-time data that they were collecting. And these are their physical crews on a job site clocking in with their fingerprint on a tablet on a drywall job. There's other customers, CH Yarber, again, cut payroll savings and processing in half. Our team went with one vendor, was Progressive. So the technology, user-friendly smartphone app, again, cut payroll processing time in half. Another person saying the same thing. It's reduced time and stress for supervisors in the field. Progressive Roofing, very large roofing contractor. Baker, large drywall. There's Rosenden's large electrical. They feel like our company's been a true partner for them. So many things that are real results with real companies, much like yours. Again, track the labor, get things done more accurately, the costing, better financial controls, reduced payroll cycles, greater productivity. Same quote as we reviewed before with Martin Zombach. They regretted, they didn't do it sooner. That was their regret. It's working great. Just how simple. So ease of use. These are all important things that are risks that are external. The buttons might always do the same thing, but if your guys don't understand how to use the buttons and which buttons to push and when to push them, there's risk. There's a potential of challenge and loss and waste that you're able to avoid. So that's it for the presentation today. I just want to reiterate as I wrap up, the goal here is to give you tools and knowledge and therefore power so that you can make better decisions with better data quicker, and you can get to managing data instead of drama in your various organizations. Thank you for your time today, and with that I will turn the time back over to Megan.
All right. It doesn't look like we have any questions, Mike, but I would like to thank Mike for presenting, and I would like to thank all of you for attending. Now, an email will be sent out to all attendees with a link to a survey. Please take a moment and provide us with your feedback on today's presentation so we can continually improve them. And also the email will contain a link to the presentation. Hey, feel free to share it with anybody who you think would be interested. If you have more questions or are interested in hearing more about AboutTime solution, or reducing risk and increasing productivity, just call us at 888-315-TIME, or it's 8463. A member of our sales team would be happy to answer any questions you have. So thank you and have a good day.